So today on the podcast is a really cool podcast. Colin and I were just talking about this before we got on the recording for the intro, about talking about the things that we talk about in the podcast on the intro. And I think this is a really good example of it because we have Anna, who is Jesse's wife, on the podcast, and she's not here just to talk about how weird Jesse is and how grumpy he is, which is surprising. But she's here to ask us about our favorite hobby, which is car camping or overlanding. And it was a fun time. We had me, Colin, and Steve, and then Anna. And she asked us a bunch of questions, and we tried our best to answer them kind of off the cuff. We didn't really try to write them down. Full disclosure, we saw the questions before the show, but I made like an effort to not write anything down because I didn't want to be like scripted with it, because I don't think that's what we do here. And I think it's fun to be able to go off the cuff like that. But I had a really good time. I know that everybody else looked like they had a good time. And also it's like our longest podcast we've done so far, which was really cool too. A little technical difficulty in the middle. I'm sure Colin will be able to clean that up in a way that makes it so that it doesn't sound bad, or at least it sounds relatively seamless. But it went really well, and I'm really excited about it. And I'm really excited that our 10th episode, right, Colin?
Yep. 10.
Yep. Our 10th
episode 9,
10th episode.
10th episode.
All right. That doesn't make any sense to me, but I'm going to roll with it because you're the guy in charge. So
remember, we're like the Canadians. We start at 0.
Oh, yeah. So 10th episode, Anna, awesome. Everything was fun. I think that I'm ready to end because we've had so much time on this one. But before I do that, I'm going to pass over to Colin, just make sure that he doesn't have anything he wants to go over or talk about before we go live.
Before we go, I will say, so we got a comment on the YouTube asking about merch. And so basically the easiest way to find our merch, unfortunately we don't have any hats right now, but all of our t-shirts are available. They're on the Campfire Passport website. Sean's wearing his right there. I am wearing one of our Land Rover shirts. And they are also available directly through the Instagram or the Facebook page. Very easy, very seamless. It's all point and shoot for it. So
cool. One thing, good. The reason that it took me so long to get a shirt is that I thought that these shirts, the original shirt, which is really good, it's got this awesome logo, I thought it was white only because you have to really dig through the menu to find out that there is black. So tip for everybody that will not wear a white shirt like me, gotta click through it a little bit, and then you can find the black one, and then you can be happy and stock your entire wardrobe and send Colin's kids to college. So,
well, that'd be great.
Well, we're going to have this fun podcast where Anna here is going to ask us a bunch of questions, which is going to be terrifying and funny probably. And I don't know what else, but it's going to be interesting at the very least. For everybody that's listening that doesn't know Anna is Jesse's better half. She is obviously much nicer than him because she's not called Grumpy Anna. So there's that. So with that being said, Anna, do you want to just introduce yourself real quick and then maybe jump right in?
Yeah. Thank you for the intro. Yes, Jesse's wife. I almost put that as my little name here in the podcast. So what started this, I'll say, is where I work. Every couple weeks we do these little internal presentations where we share kind of like interesting findings on things that are hopefully kind of non-work related. I work in graphic design and advertising, and so we'd like to just I don't know, present on things that are just like cool. They're like 15 minutes. It's very casual, and I thought overlanding might be fun. It's fairly relevant. We do a lot of work in like the action sports industry, and it's new enough, I think, to where I don't think anyone's done it, but we have a lot of like campers, so I kind of want to see how the two compare, or a lot of where my questions will lie. So.
Yeah, I would think with the amount of like outdoor brands that you guys work with, it makes a lot of sense to have it as a subject.
Yeah.
Seems cool. Seems like it works.
We did some work for a rooftop tent company a few years back who are now owned by Thule. Tapuli is what we call them now. But,
it's perfect. That's perfect.
but yeah, maybe this will like spark some new, I don't know, maybe a new client. We'll
there you
have
go.
Some exciting new learnings today.
Well, yeah, from our huge listener base, as we were talking about earlier, you're liable to pull lots of clients through this.
Great.
I know it directly affects my business, just like you wouldn't believe.
Like in a good way.
Oh, yeah.
People are leaving left and right.
Yeah, or that. Yeah, it's hard to tell. I don't know. There's a lot of cancellations. We can't correlate it to my podcast, but you never know.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
When did you guys start doing this, by the way? Overlanding, not podcasting.
We had this conversation when we had Luke and Colin and I on the podcast, and Luke nailed a date down. I don't remember what it was, but I think it's like 2016.
Was someone just like, let's drive really far to go camping, and then it got the name Overlanding?
I have no idea how it started.
I was wondering if people get into it. It seems like it could be something that could easily like slow burn, you know?
Yeah.
I mean,
Just curious.
we'll plug our own podcast here. Episode 5, I believe. Real Big Air Cooled Guy. That is the origin story of the Sean, myself, Aaron, and Luke.
Well, Aaron too.
Yeah, that was we were the original group that like kind of took it from the just going camping or just going wheeling and turned it into what we all do, and then later found out that this is overlanding, I guess. Cool.
It turns out other people do this too.
That's what we're doing. Yeah. Okay, should I just start diving in?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna start with, all of you guys are very knowledgeable within the car world already, like outside of overlanding, it seems. So I feel like that must draw you toward it. And I'm wondering, is that necessary? Like, if someone who's not a big car buff, not that into knowing the ins and outs of every vehicle known to man, can you still do this?
I think
I don't think so at all, especially probably being the least car guy in the car guy group. But no, I would say that no, it doesn't take
Is that
any,
is that
but
a no?
some. Yes, because it's vehicle centric, but not vehicle knowledge base required. No.
it's a weird cross section because it kind of hits this spot where we always joke around, Lauren and I, about it being car backpacking. So it's the same as a backpacking trip, but with a car, right? Like there's so much more space and things you can do, and it crosses over really well. So it like appeals to a lot of people, I think, that camp or do outdoor things. But for like me, and I think I can speak for Colin and maybe Luke and most of us, the vehicle aspect is really cool too, because it kind of adds in that other piece of our interest. So it puts those two things together. The other thing that I think is really interesting, I was telling somebody this a while back about off-road specifically. There's a lot of people I've noticed from action sports backgrounds, so skateboarding, BMX, whatever, that are also into off-roading, because it kind of, it just becomes like this vehicle extension of that same kind of thing, especially when you talk about like really serious off-road as opposed to, dorky camping. So I think that yes and no to answer it.
Yeah, that's
I'm sure it helps.
I kind of feel the same way. It's there's plenty of people out there that don't even build their own vehicle and like have nothing to do with like what goes into the vehicle aspect of it. They just want to go out and do something. Is it more expensive that way? Yes. Is it probably easier? Also, yes, because the rest of us tend to suffer and do things on our own, which is, because we're stubborn and we say we enjoy it, but we may not actually enjoy the doing it part until it's done.
There have been times I've questioned, are we having fun right now? But
Yeah.
what is like, are there like bare minimum though, kind of like needs that your car needs to have? Like, do you have to have 4-wheel drive? Do you have to, I don't know.
So I'll go here first because I had a specific answer for this one, and it is it is yes, you can do a lot of this type of stuff with your stupid Subaru or something that just has like some ground clearance and all-wheel drive. and that's fine, but the whole like concept and idea behind it is to be able to go further than what the average vehicle is supposed to be able to go, which is why in my head, I kind of have this, it needs to have low range, a transfer case like that. It needs to have actual ability to do more than just what, Joe Blow's Subaru, Sean's Subaru, can do, because it's not necessarily that like you need that every time, but it's you want to know that you have that ability if something goes wrong on the road. I mean, imagine doing our Alvord trip that we just did this year and thinking, oh, well, I'm just overlanding. This shouldn't be a big deal, and taking your Subaru that's basically stock, maybe you put tires on it or something like that, and trying to do that road that we took and how muddy it was and all of that. And it's like, it's not going to work. And you don't want the vehicle to be your limiting factor to the adventure or however you want to term it that you're doing.
I imagine having a extremely capable vehicle gets you places that just weed out all those people in general. So just by that fact, you're a little more alone, a little more
that's a huge piece.
Probably gathering.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that it's dependent on trail, right? Like ultimately, yes, Colin, 100% right there, because I think that the whole point is to be able to go long distance, far away, basically. And even if maybe a Subaru or a Ford Escape or some like CUV kind of car could technically go to some of these places, to be able to drive 60, 70 miles an hour on a gravel road for 35 miles, that's a different thing. Like that requires a little bit different scenario. But I think, and because I like this big pie in the sky feeling about a lot of things like this, like I think it's really cool that people do small camp trips or within their means camp trips with less appropriate vehicles, because that's fine. They get out and they use them for their thing. We've never run into somebody that was being an idiot that we had to save or anything, so it's fine. And that gives us, maybe in like snow wheeling and things, but that gives us the ability to go to these really remote places that stay a little more sacred, and everybody gets a turn basically.
Yeah. I mean, everyone has to start somewhere.
Routes.
Yeah.
And we have people in our friend
I'm sorry,
group
I can't hear Steve, so I apologize, Steve, if I'm ever like talking over you.
No, you're good. We have people in our friend group like Lauren that are basically kind of in that boat.
In terms of like difficulty with like locations or routes when you're planning these, how do you know? I don't know. How do you like choose it? Besides just this place looks cool, I want to go here. How do you know what conditions will be like? How do you know what everyone in your group is capable of? Like, what are all the things you're considering when you're mapping it out? And how?
I'm considering.
That's a Colin question.
How do you find out that information?
I'm considering if Mike is bringing the RV, and then I'm also telling him usually
Hi, Mike.
that I cannot guarantee any road condition, because you can't, especially on trips that are in new territory where you have not gone before. If it's a totally new place, you haven't driven this road, you cannot make any guarantees, promises, even if like someone on, say, OnX or whatever gives a trail report of what the conditions of that road are. I mean, is this guy somebody that just drove out there in their Land Cruiser that's got 40s and they're like, oh, this was bullshit, this was nothing? Or is this somebody that drove out there in their Subaru and is like, oh, this is the craziest thing I've ever driven on? You know, it's you cannot rely on anyone giving you information. There's only like the first-hand, I've driven this road before, and depending on whether it's like this, that's the only way you're gonna really know. And even then, there's no guarantee, because it could be a late snow season, or it could rain the day before you went out there, and then it turns out it's not what you expected on the road because it rained the day before. Like, there's zero guarantees as far as I'm concerned.
Is that kind of what happened when we went out to the Alvord this year?
That's what I was going to say.
Late winter or recent rain, or
Yeah,
All?
that was
all?
all of the above. Yeah, a lot of snow melt because
Yeah.
it was a late snow and like warm-ish temperatures. So like the snow was right at that like melt point basically. So it had just been melting into the ground for, the week prior to us going there, and it just made it a total slop. So no promises.
It's very, very sloppy. Yeah, I imagine there's a lot you can't plan for. I assume outside of a weather forecast, like, are you checking anything else? I know at this point you guys are so experienced, I imagine a lot of it is now just learned and you're not exactly Googling how to pack for a 5-day overland trip. But if anyone were in need of that kind of thing, do you have anything that you like to use or that you would recommend to anybody for newbies?
I think there's a lot of good, like YouTube resource at this point for people that are wanting to do it. And I, not like Googling how to do a 5-day trip maybe, but watching like some of the things that, like, Colin and I joke around all the time. There's this Australian show, 4-Wheel Drive 24/7. I was just watching before I came up here because I'm a nerd about this stuff. And it's awesome, right? It's not what we do. It's not even the same thing almost at all. But you can watch them and you can watch the setups that they have and what they run into. And it really tells a story about, like what you might encounter. And you can help, kind of get your bearings straight and understand what you're going to run into based on those things, I think. I think that makes a good springboard.
Yeah. There's forums as well. Like the biggest one is Expedition Portal. So they're an expedition blog basically, and then on top of that, as far as I know, they're the largest like expedition / overlanding focused forum. So if you're someone that wants to read and see physical pictures and ask questions, things like that, like most of the time people are more than happy to frickin' give you the what's what of everything that has to do with their vehicle, because especially, people that are very into their vehicles, they love to talk about their vehicles. Sean loves to tell us how the Land Cruiser is the best platform that there is, and that's basically every Land Cruiser owner, is that they will always tell you how their platform is the best. So
the key here is consistency. It's because they are the best. Sorry.
Yeah, there's a real sense of pride, isn't there, among each individual person?
Yes. Yeah. Individualism and pride.
But then we all kind of
Wish there was some
secretly
kind of way
want
you
each
could
other's
really do a
rigs.
ranking, like
Yeah.
get some kind of obstacle course, or like, I don't know, get everyone in the group to kind of go through and see who performs the best.
I mean, we kind of did that with
yeah.
Tyson's party. That was fun.
did,
We had this
yeah.
little like coned course, and
Yeah, video is
think-
on YouTube.
I think I did pretty well at that, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. You weren't the winner for the weekend of
Oh.
competition, but yeah, you did.
Yeah.
pretty
Well,
good
there
on
was
that.
there was starting a fire in a puddle or some nonsense like that, and I don't know how to do that.
Hey, that's bushcraft, man.
Are you serious? Is that a thing?
It wasn't in water, but
Well,
it
it
was
wasn't in
starting a
water.
fire from scratch. But it was raining, right? So
Well, it rained the day before,
okay.
and we used dry wood. What do you like? Quit trying to make it sound harder than it was.
I think I did fine at that too, but not good. Just
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, I mean, Colin was the only one that gave up and made a sandwich. And by the time he was done eating his sandwich, then his water had boiled. So
He also won.
Wow.
I looked at the tape, Steve. He didn't win.
He didn't
Who
win.
won?
The most unreliable car in the world was indeed the most reliable car in the world.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Really?
Yep. L322
Tyson should have
for
won.
the win, guys.
There should have been a budget tab. Tyson would have won it.
Yeah. Your points are then deducted from your initial buy-in cost.
That matters.
That tent's worth more than the vehicle. Oh.
Moving on.
Yeah, let's go. These are fun.
Yeah, do you feel like it's like I almost want to go like rapid fire? This is
I need a
fun one.
buzzer.
I already started talking to Jesse about this in the car, which inspired the whole podcast idea, but I liked asking what are all the like most helpful, useful gadgets. And actually what I found more interesting was like what are his least helpful gadgets that he still like insists on bringing every time because like just in case, you know?
Oh man, I have so much just in case crap in my camp gear.
It's very like preppery.
It's terrible.
Like, this attracts, I think, maybe that type of personality of
Yeah.
like
Oh, it definitely does.
extreme over preparedness.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think least favorite first is that I definitely overpack, which is good, right? Like if I need it, I guess that's good. That's where the prepper thing comes in. But it's usually food, and it's usually like snacks. Like I just bring, like I never eat Oreos at home, but we'll buy like the biggest pack you can get for camping and eat
I
like
know what car to come
8
to
of
now.
them.
Gonna need the family
Like,
pack.
Great.
Never
This is
snacks.
yeah. My favorite gadgets though, other than the vehicle itself, because I really do like, I think that part of it is so fun for me. Like, especially when we're in like serious terrain, I just think the whole package is really cool. I think I like having lights, and I like having a good radio. Also just good sound, like when you're driving, but the radio to talk back and forth. So those two things to me, being able to see, being able to hear everybody, I think is just awesome. Like that makes it so much better. Without those things, it becomes very frustrating. We've all had those earlier trips where someone has a CB that's not tuned in, or someone doesn't have this, or someone doesn't have that. It's so irritating. Especially we have some friends that are a little chatty, which is awesome for it being, you know, a bonding experience. But like, stop talking. I can't understand you. You're eating your microphone has come across so many times.
He sings a lot, I've noticed.
Yeah, yes. He's a riot. We're talking about adding, Colin and I were talking about adding those feeds to the videos going forward. And I think you could probably make an entire video of Mike just rambling on his radio, which would be, I think we could get hundreds of views on that.
Yeah. Would follow.
Would follow.
Any other? I feel like I was expecting some more, like gadgets and things that I had never heard of. Tools.
I mean,
maybe gadget is sort of not the right word.
I think Jesse's the
bring it.
gadget guy.
I still bring the
Really?
same
That makes me
Japanese
feel better,
grill
'cause it
like
seems
from
like
day
we're heavy on
one.
gadgets, but
That Steve just brought up his Japanese grill, which is the best gadget you've never thought you needed on a trip. 100%. It makes the best things ever. I'm still sad that I don't have one.
I wish I could
It's
remember
definitely not Steve. It's the grill.
what it's called. But Tyson's, I don't have one, but I want one, is Tyson's fold, like switchblade saw. Like I don't.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And it's funny because like so the show alone, we all nerded out on that for a pretty decent amount of time, and a lot of the people on that show bring those as one of their like tools for their kit that they're allowed to bring or whatever, and that's where Tyson saw it and like instantly went and bought it, and then I used it on one trip and was like, "Yep, this is the shit. This is awesome. Like it is such a cool piece. Like it's great." But I guess, I mean, I don't know. Like I tend to keep my stuff like pretty basic and simple because I don't want to have stuff that's like elaborate and annoying and like that. Just the more elaborate it gets, the more potential there is for failure. And when you're out there in the middle of nowhere, hopefully, I mean, or I guess you could be at a campground if you're, not super serious about it, but like the more stuff you have to go wrong, like the more potential for that, the worse it can be. Like, because if it does go wrong and you're out in the middle of nowhere, like now you get to figure out how you're going to fix that or remedy it, at least to get through or to somewhere else that you can fix it. But I mean, I think one of my favorites is probably just the fridge. Like, and I get that there's more stuff that like comes with that. Like it's the, having to be able to power the fridge and all of that. Like there's a lot that comes with it, but like the fridge is such a massive game changer for like long trips where we're out for extended periods of time. We don't have to buy ice. You don't have to swim through the ice to like get a drink out. Your food isn't waterlogged because the ice is melted. Like it's such a great, and again, it's not even something that you need in order to do this. Like you can live the cooler and ice thing, just get a decent cooler and you're pretty good. But it's the fridge, like it takes it to that next level where like it's expensive. It's more than just the fridge that you need, but it is something that totally changes like everything. Like it makes it so that you kind of realize I could actually be out here for longer than what my planned trip is. Like you may have planned for 4 days and realize, wow, like I probably could have done another 2 days out here and really not had any issue, because it simplifies things while making them more difficult as well. But that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I'll attempt to pack light and still come home with 2 days worth of food.
Or I don't know what else you need for extendo stays. Fridge and gas.
Fridge and gas, yeah, that's it. You can eat all those Oreos if you stay longer. It's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
we've never really we've never extended a camp trip, really. Like neither by necessity or, for fun. I thought we might have been going down that path a couple years ago when we did Black Rock because there was enough sick people. I thought maybe we just have to stay here for the day in my fever dream, but we didn't. I also thought for a second, like maybe I can ride in the tent for a while. Like maybe I don't have to get out of here. Didn't. Yeah. Just who cares? Just close me in.
That should be a feature.
Yeah, it's like being in the in the little over cab bed in the camper. It's the same thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's all legal.
I'm getting in there.
Yeah, no kidding.
In terms of what about like we were talking a lot about recovery gear and that side of things, which is something I don't think typically comes into play when camping, sort of, I don't know, we call it stationary camping, I guess you call it. What's your number one item for I'm stuck?
kinetic rope.
Yeah, I think a rope is like, even though it's the most basic thing, that's the thing. Like you have to have
the right
some
rope,
sort
though.
of
Like,
strap.
yeah.
Even a
Rated for
terrible
the
one
right
is
amount of
so
weight.
much better than nothing.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want a piece of twine from the store, you know.
Yeah.
Yellow nylon.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be like in a winch. It can just be.
Yep, just a regular old rope.
Just a strap or
the winch. The winch is like the refrigerator of recovery. Like you don't have to have it. It's very nice, especially if you're like by yourself or if you're in the front and you need to be able to like try to self-recover. Great, that's awesome. Yeah. But everything else, like 90% of what we do by a long shot is doable by a rope, a strap, a kinetic rope, whatever. And that's like a gotta have it kind of thing. I think. Yeah, I think we've all used them so much.
Strap and D-rings. That's like the simplest way. I mean, granted, like Sean said, you then need someone else to assist you in getting out, unless you've got some real clever ways to use a high lift jack or something like that. But yeah, the winch is if you do a lot of solo stuff, like there's something to be said about that confidence a winch gives you when you're out on your own, like to be able to like, okay, well, I could try this because if I get stuck, I've got the winch, I can see a tree off in the distance that I know I can strap to and pull myself out if need be. So it's not it shouldn't be the first thing that you get. Like that's a big investment, and it definitely should not be one of the first things you get, because that you don't even, I mean, some of us haven't, we didn't have a winch for a long time. Like it's
long time.
You'll get to a point where it's like, okay, now I'm pushing my vehicle and my, ability to a certain extent. And it's like, okay, well, now I should probably go ahead and get a winch because I want to go a little further. I want to have that confidence in what my setup is so that I can go that extra distance or to this next campsite that I can't quite get to this time, things like that.
Yeah, and how many people buy those Max Tracks and how many people end up actually using them? I swear, most of them are in pristine shape and usually probably never used.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think there's like a secret code to the Max Tracks.
What is that? Is that Aaron losing them every time he uses them?
No, I don't know. It's just like some people really get a lot of use out of them and they like work. I've seen them work. They worked on the 80s on Edison run like twice. Great. And I'm like, I don't know how you do that, because every time I've used them, all that happens is Colin Meese gets mad because I spin on it or something. Like that's the only experience I've ever had with a Max Track is don't spin on it. What am I supposed to do?
That's the thing, is you have to accept it's a wearable part. So that piece of kit will wear out when you use it. But yes, Steve is right. Most of them they're just on the guy's roof or on their fucking bumper, and then they'll get to a campsite and they'll use them for a leveling block, so they don't have to find a rock.
Which is kind of nice.
Remember when we used Jesse's this last trip on the outboard? I mean, we certainly used them and demonstrated that
they were
Jesse definitely used it.
Usable part.
Yeah.
Next question.
Sure.
What most interests me, and I imagine my fellow campers, is how you pack differently. Not even just like what you pack, but just like how you pack is. It's like seems like it has to be extra accessible, extra. I don't know. Everything has its perfect little place everywhere, and that seems important.
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing is knowing where everything is, and let alone having a spot for everything, which is also creates the problem in that once you pull it out and get to it, getting it back in the same spot with the same tolerance is also the other part. But it's having access to the things that you need and knowing the things that you have, but putting those in places where it might be trouble to get to. But for me to get to, my tire kit, I'm going to need my tire, which, I don't need to have my patch kit super, super accessible. that can be tucked away deep.
Yeah, so like prioritizing
Yes.
the likelihood of needing it.
Yeah.
Makes
Yep.
sense.
Yeah, and that's something that you kind of learn as you go. I mean, it's the more you do it, the more you'll find like, okay, I use this a fucking lot, so I want to put this somewhere that is like front and center, easy to get to all the time, because you use it all the time. You don't want everything to be a hassle as you're going, because it's like it's already, the trip itself is the hassle. Like you don't want everything else like compounding and making everything like making it a miserable time. But again, like I said, it's like a learned thing. Like it's not, you're not going to get it right the first time. I mean, I know I still don't get shit right, where I will end up needing something and I'm like, why did I put it here? This is stupid. It's worthless right here. You know, it's or I change vehicles. Like Mike and I are the ones that freaking just keep cycling through vehicles that we use, and we start over on our like build out, because every vehicle you can't build, you know, my car how Sean built his, and Sean can't build his how Steve built his. So it's like you have to know the space that your vehicle is and what you want to bring, how you want to bring it, and like I said, it's all learned. You will not get it right for a long time.
You just start. Yeah, and go.
Just start.
Keep it local and small, and then you come back and you go, man, I really wish I had that. And man, I didn't bring that at all. I didn't use that at all. So you just go. And you know, my truck has not stayed the same. Each trip I go, something changes, you know. But the things that change are more impactful, and they are bigger and bigger. You know, the changes become less and
You're just tweaking.
smaller tasks, but more meaningful and meaningful as they go.
Man.
Like, Sean, where do you keep your Oreos? Are they really accessible?
Yeah. Until like midday on the second day, and then usually they're kind of crammed under everything. I'm like the worst person about this, because I have my kit of stuff that I've been using, you know, for years now, and they're all in the same place because I've had the same setup for years, and I don't really even put any thought into it at all. We like every trip maybe kind of pack a certain way, but I couldn't tell you really what that way is. I know where the water container goes. I know where the food goes. Everything else is just in there. That's pretty much the extent of my preparation most of the time, which usually works out fine. It's not too bad.
Sounds like that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I think it's that I've done that legwork long enough ago with one vehicle that it's like, it's not a thing anymore, but I don't really think about it. I throw a bunch of stuff in a backpack and toss it in the back and put the dog in, and we go. Like, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, where do everyone's dogs kind of ride?
Oh my God. My dog is a maniac. So she has the most perfect little half backseat delete that is all for her. We call it the pup form. It's got quilted fabric on it. I spent hours building it. It's beautiful. She absolutely hates it and will not sit on it at all. Basically, she sits in Holden's lap in the back if he's there. If he's not there, she sits back there for a little while, and then she sits in Lauren's lap and just drools all over the place. So it's great. She's a lot of fun to bring along.
Colin?
My old dog, he was great. It was just, I had kind of like how Sean had, but not in the seat, because two kids, so they occupy the whole back seat. So that brings in another element of I have to have a space for a dog. Luckily, my dogs are always short dogs, so I can put him up on top of things, because I had a drawer system and things like that, and so he would just kind of be on top, but not, it wouldn't impede on his headroom, and he did really good back there, just having his own little blanket and or bed space, basically. New dog has some puke problems, so at the moment he rides in the front floorboard with Natasha. And now that he's large, at his full size,
Yeah.
it's a little tighter. But so we're hoping that the road sickness goes away as he ages. Hopefully he ages out of that so he can kind of move to his own space, because yeah, I mean, having a dedicated space for the dog is really nice because it keeps things clean, especially if you can keep them in that space. Sorry, Sean. And it's
The car is hers.
Yeah. It's one of those. Then they also have a space to sleep as well. Like, that's their space to be. I know some of us are dogs in the tent people, but that's I'm sure we'll get to the whole rooftop thing and how that can be a bit of a problem with certain dogs. unless you're Aaron's
Yeah.
dog. Aaron's dog
He's got the ladder. He's fine.
He's got the
dog in the
ramp
tent?
ladder.
Oh, he's got a ladder specifically
miss
for that.
He did it on the outboard. He set it all
guess
up,
so.
and Frankie
Probably
went up there.
chasing a
It was
child.
yeah, it was amazing. It was quite
That's terrifying.
the thing to see.
I can barely hoist Emmy up there.
And you gotta be careful when walking around that tent when he's asleep. Even he'll growl at you.
Really? I'm unfamiliar with grouchy territorial dogs.
Huh.
Steve, are you gonna bring yours ever? Not even just a
No.
little, just to try it?
Maybe Titus,
Just
when he's like ancient and can't move, but he's still too much of a liability.
Just sedate him just a little bit.
Yeah, man, we drove.
He's an old man. He'll come, but Grover's too blind to be able to come. That
Yeah.
blind dog. No,
I mean,
no fun.
you brought him on that one trip, and he was pretty good. I mean, he was a little sketched out about like the smaller kids, but I think it was just because they were too fast and forward into his space. But I mean,
That was back when he could see still.
right.
Food-wise, what about like packing for camping versus packing for overlanding when it comes to food? Is it just less? Like,
Oreos.
just
It's just Oreos.
Let Steve cook.
And let Steve cook.
honestly, I eat half my meals, I think, are from Steve every time we go. We always have food packed for every meal, and Steve's just like, do you want any gourmet chicken I made on my...
Yeah, well, and I think that
absolutely not.
Your problem there, Anna, is Jesse overdoes it a little bit and like brings MREs and shit like that,
No.
which like, some people are very into, and I know Jesse's very into it, but I think he over concerns himself on how his food is going to be packed and what food is coming and whatnot. Like, because it seems every trip that I have done with him, he always, I do not envy what he is eating, ever. It's never like, it's like, nope,
It's also what I'm eating.
yeah, and that's which is why, yeah, definitely lean on the Steve there, or you're gonna
Just
have
looking
to
for pity, you
break.
guys.
You're gonna have to break him out of that somehow, because he you guys have a big fridge.
it's
you
gotten
can
better,
you can
actually.
bring some food that you can make.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when he
there's a lot
came,
of, like,
so
everything's pre-made
on our blast on McGrew, I think Carlton talked him into bringing like real food, because like they brought like steaks, and it's like I have never seen Jesse with like a slab of meat to cook when camping. So like
I've
maybe
also never
that's
seen that.
yeah, see, so maybe that's gonna break down that wall for him.
That would be cool. We ate like freeze dry meals last weekend when we were camping.
Yeah,
okay.
that doesn't.
Ugh.
I just don't get that. The food shouldn't be
I'm
the
getting
it
some
shouldn't be
really
suffering.
great insight, you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're bringing a fridge. Why is the food suffering? Like,
I know.
It's not hard. It's
No.
really easy to bring just normal food for the most part.
it really is.
Like I can see some meal prepping being a good idea, and Steve does this a decent amount, right? Where he's got stuff like kind of ready to go and he finishes it off, you know. But like that's about it. That's the extent of what I think that I'd be comfortable with there. But whatever.
The
I'm not
problem
gonna-
is
One
Jesse
of the
does.
biggest things for me is like pre-cooking bacon, because dealing with like bacon grease on the trail is absolutely just it's annoying, and things
It
like
sucks.
that take time, and you know if you can boil out any of the time factor, like that's what's beneficial, especially cleanup.
No, definitely clean up.
I
yeah.
want Jesse to think I'm ungrateful for all of the things he does. Jesse, if you're listening,
The next podcast is going to be. I'm trying to think of a title that runs along with that, but I got nothing. I'll watch it. I don't want Jesse to be mad at me either.
I don't
Maybe
pack
Jesse
any
defends
food
himself.
for camping. All I do is pack my bag. I pack Emmy's bag, and he does everything else. And you know what? Those are the terms that I am okay with.
I think everybody's got their own agreement with those things. There's got to
Yeah.
be like a little give and take.
I love to poll all the ladies of the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Get some other opinions. Switching gears. Where is the coolest, favoritist place you've been that you probably only could have gone to via overlanding vehicle?
Have an idea? Anybody else? No?
I mean, I wouldn't say place, but trip. I think Jesse's bachelor party was still one of my more favorite trips in general.
That was a lot of fun.
What was
So
so
not that we can't go back there, but since the fire went through there, it won't be the same.
Yeah.
Does that count?
Yep.
Yeah, we had that like wonderful river day that was really cool in the middle of it, and just kind of a good amount of some off-roading, a lot of hanging out. Good all around, for sure.
Yeah, and now like Steve said, the fire went through there, so like the place that we camped isn't the same. The road that we took no longer goes all the way through. You can't take the road all the way through anymore. It's an out and back. Like a lot of things have changed, and that's again that comes back to that, like, just go out and do it, because stuff happens, fires or bridges go out or things like that. So it's like the road that you took this year, it may not be the same next year. So
Oh yeah, especially in the forest, for sure. I think my favorite location. So I'm going to preface this because everybody knows that the desert is kind of my favorite spot. So we'll just keep that as that's my favorite. But I think Owyhee is the coolest place that we've gone to on camp trips. That is somewhere that would be really hard to do without a car. You could definitely do it, but it's such an expansive area that like a backpacking trip or something like that would be really, I think, difficult to manage. I don't think it's impossible, but it's completely different because it's really remote. It's really like you got to traverse some weird like rancher property stuff, and like there's a bunch of strange things that happen there that make it a little more difficult than other places we go. So it's special.
I don't know that I guess, yeah, you'd need the overland vehicle to do it, but probably just I'm gonna go out of Oregon probably just because it was out of Oregon. But the trip that Steve and I did with four-wheeler, like that was
Oh yeah,
that's
pretty epic.
It was pretty cool. Like it wasn't anything like crazy or anything like that, but it was, and it may, like I said, it may just be because it's like the furthest away from home I've done it, like done this type of, well, I guess, well, maybe not, because I mean, I've been to Moab a couple times,
Moab,
but not not as a like long outside of having an actual house to stay in, because like Moab was like you go there and we stayed in a house and then would like go out and wheel trails. This was like an actual overland trip per se, but like it's this crazy cool area. And I mean, you don't get to go down that, you don't typically get to go that far away all the time, so it kind of has a cool feeling to it. But your Oahe comment is definitely on my top tier list as well. Like it's still in Oregon. It's obtainable. It's like, I mean, yes, it's a bit of a drive because it's literally like, the furthest corner you can go to almost in Oregon, but it is such a cool area that you're not gonna get into with like regular street cars and not being prepared, things like that. Like that's a cool, way too cool of a place.
It is. It's really unique, and that's really special. I think to build on what you said, when we did Death Valley, I feel the same sort of thing that you're talking about being really far away and like how cool that is. And that's another area where like you could hike around there, you can backpack it and stuff in certain areas, especially in the time of year that that you pick. But to be out in such a desolate place, so far from home, it's really cool. I really enjoy that. Like that is exactly when you see. I talked about 4-wheel drive 24/7 earlier. Like when you see those shows and where those guys are going sometimes in the Australian outback, like that's kind of part of the dream, right? Like that's part of what I don't want to say you're trying to mimic, but in a way that's kind of what you're trying to mimic. Like just getting out really far and really doing it, like being out there.
Yep.
What's one thing you've done on a trip that you will never do again?
Never do again.
Not bring my poop bucket.
It's the top end of it now.
Yep. I'm never digging a hole again.
Biggest mistake, however you want to phrase it.
I can't think of anything that's been truly that bad.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. I can't say not get sick because it's just impossible to avoid. That's not really within my control. But if I could control it, that would be the thing. Beyond that, I don't know. I don't know. Everything that we've done, I can't think of anything that's really been that bad. There's been some adversity, right? But like, nothing within my control that I could change, I think.
That adversity, I think, is like, what is overlanding without adversity?
Sure. Yeah, I think that's part of the fun, right? Like a little bit of that getting stuck or like having a vehicle breakdown that you have to fix or like whatever else. Mm-hmm. It's fun. Like even years ago, Colin had his front wheel bearings go out in his Tacoma, right? And we had to wait for a tow truck, and I had to drive with the dog in the car, his dog in my car with my dog, which is fine. They're good friends. It was fun, but like, that's a good story. Would I say I wouldn't go with somebody that might have a failing front wheel bearing? No, it was fun. I would do it again in a heartbeat. Like, it's fine.
Yeah. I don't think I'm kind of with Sean. I don't think that there's something that like really stands out. What I will say, like kind of in that thread, would be any like new kit, new tool you want to use, new tent equipment, whatever it is. Like I will never put it on and not use it at home first to like figure it out. Like getting out in the middle of nowhere, and then it becomes part of like the frustration of once you're there trying to deal with like, okay, how do I fucking use this? That sucks. Like always use it before you actually have to use it. That way when it comes time when you're going to use it, you actually know how to.
I think that makes sense.
Did you ever have an experience where you didn't know how to use a thing that you got and then you had to figure it out while you were out?
Typically no, because I do. I practice what I preached
'Cause you
just
follow the
now.
rule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't typically get
I
something.
wondered if you learned
and
that
not
the
use
hard
it.
way or something.
No. Just I know that I've seen people use something for the first time while out, and you can see the confusion and frustration as things are mounting. And it's just that's why I do that beforehand. Yeah.
What's Oh wait, Steve, did you have some?
Yeah, no, not like
Other than his bucket, no.
No, everyone's like, I make mistakes. No regrets. In terms of what is better about overlanding than regular camping, and what is worse, or I guess more difficult?
being able to cover
Money.
more ground. You get to stay and see like so much terrain in one day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I haven't
Money-
regular
the
camped
money
for so
part is
long at
more
this point.
difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yes, I know about that one.
Yeah, it's not a cheap endeavor, that's for sure.
No, I mean
No, but
it
we all
can.
know
It,
that like
it
all
can
it
be,
takes
but
is putting a rooftop tent on top of $1,000 JK, and you got yourself
extra.
overland.
Yes.
Extra, or I mean, put it on top of a Subaru, and you got yourself the same kind of situation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want people to know that there are entry level options here, guys.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Look at Tyson's.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely
look at the
stuff
XJ.
that. Yeah, that's a prime example, and it's really cool.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that thing went from $1,000 XJ that was basically like pieced together with some lift stuff, and he got a used tent that was not, and it was old too, for like a couple $100. If you enjoy shopping for deals and like cruising through marketplace and stuff like that, like you can set yourself up on a deal. Like just wait it out for the right deals. It doesn't have to be. I mean, it's still another level more expensive than just like typical like ground camping, going to a campsite, things like that. But it's like there's definitely ways to circumvent. Like you don't have to go out and buy a fucking Unimog with a living quarters on the back of it. That's for people that are like traveling the world full time. That's not what we're doing. As much as I would love to do something like that, it's not fully necessary. You don't need to do that.
Well,
Yeah.
if you already have ground camping stuff, congratulations. 3/4 of that to almost all of that is exactly what you would take with you anyway. So it really
Yeah.
it's a matter of outrigging a vehicle to then go do your exploring portion of it.
Yep.
And then attempting to use your vehicle in some form of how you're going to stay there ish. I mean, that could be as much as cleaning up a tarp from, I mean,
I don't even
Rob
know
and
if.
Gabby, they don't have a
Yeah.
they don't have a rooftop tent, and they came and did the entire outboard trip that we did. So, do you need a rooftop tent? Even no. You just need to have the ability to face some adversity as far as the sleeping. Then, so
Yeah.
it's just ground camping with a 4-wheel drive car at that point.
Yep. Yeah.
Backpacking.
I think that's a big thing. That it's backpacking with a car. You don't even like the rooftop tent is a nice accessory, right? Like it's nice to have that available,
Simplifies
but
things.
also regular tents are great. That's fine. Like whatever you can do that gets you out, I think is the thing. So
Yeah.
I mean, some people like ground
Why?
tents.
Why does everyone
so-
have a rooftop?
I don't know the
Why do you
answer to
all
that.
Prefer it.
I like it because I like the ease of setup, but I don't think that a ground tent is necessarily less easy to set up. It's just I've gotten used to it at this point. I enjoy it. I like the small footprint, so I can park in one spot and I don't have to worry about going to another spot or a flat spot or whatever. It's all right there. I have this obsession with everything being self-contained, and I think that's really cool.
It's the inclement weather for me, the rain and the
not being on the ground for that is nice.
In the rain and snow is so terrible comparatively to being elevated in some way, even if it's sleeping in it's why trucks are nice, because you just can I can sleep in the bed and the canopy. That was the ultimate overlanding, was our parents just sleeping in the back of a pickup bed. Was that what that was?
Yeah, it's one of those things, it makes it's not an absolute necessity. The rooftop tent thing is not an absolute necessity. It's a thing that makes you want to go more, because it covers those bases of, it rained on us last time and we were in a ground tent and we got flooded or whatever, or everyone has bad ground tent stories. Not that we don't have bad rooftop tent stories to go along with those, but the whole idea is just we want to make it easier for us to just on a whim, let's go camp. And that's why the rigs are set up. The tent is already there. It's got the bedding in it and all that. So it's just pull up, open it, and open your chair. You're done. That's kind of the desire for everyone is to get everything set in their vehicle, so that it's you get there and it's all easy and prepared, and makes it so that you're enjoying what you're doing rather than having to set up everything all the time, tear down everything all the time. And that's where the ground tent thing, I kind of I see it for doing the backpacking to a point and then stopping there and say leaving the tent there and then going out and adventuring or whatever, and then coming back to that quote, base camp. But if you, when you're packing up, on some of our trips where we move every day, that can be a lot of to do each day, in the morning and at night. So it's just the whole simplifying of all the processes, so that it's not so much of a headache, and you can actually enjoy wow, I'm going to enjoy driving for 6 hours through this really cool area and have some, driving challenges. And when I get to camp, it's not going to be crap, we got to camp and it's dark because somebody broke down, or, wow, it's been a long road day and I really don't feel like setting up all this stuff. That sucks that now I'm going to spend all this time setting something up just to, be able to sleep and then close it and go again.
Pack it up.
So, so yeah, but
yeah, it's
you
the
don't
same
have to.
as packing. It seems in general, everything is efficient, everything is quick, everything is, because otherwise, the trip would kind of suck. It wouldn't be worth it all the time.
Yeah.
You spend getting in and out. I feel you guys are all friends, so everyone gets along really well, but have you ever been on a trip with someone where you're you do not have the personality to do this? Or I don't know, do you need to have a certain demeanor, a certain sense of adventure, a certain will to keep going?
I think it's an interesting thing because it gets a little bit tricky when we mix all of our people together, right? We're all very close friends for the most part, everybody that you hear on this podcast and the few ancillary people that go along with that. But then there's partners and children and dogs and all these things. And sometimes because of that, when we get really deep, we get into 8 people or 8 vehicles or something like that, it gets tricky because maybe the expectation isn't always the same for everybody. Everybody reads that context differently. When Colin is so good at planning all these trips, and sometimes he says, hey, we're going on this trail. I think it's probably fine for everybody, but I don't know and I can't guarantee it, like he said earlier. And most people say, okay, we can do that. And every once in a while, that causes a sticking point because maybe somebody didn't quite understand that, or they didn't read into it the same way as everybody else. So it can be tricky. I think we're really lucky, though, even with those things, even with those little sticking points that we run into sometimes, we're very selective about who we let come with us. So it's rare that we ever have anybody that really doesn't fit in. In fact, I think most new people that come along fit in really well. Like, I don't know about the new person that came on the trip last weekend or a couple weeks ago, but it sounds like he just, blended right in because it's Jesse's friend, and of course he'd fit in. And when I bring Dave along or somebody like that, like, those people just fit in usually. And I think it's just because we're all like-minded people for the most part. But that doesn't mean it's not without its challenges, because like I said, there can be some situational things that happen where that can get really tricky. Again, especially when you start throwing in all the layers, all the extra people, everything.
Yeah, the more vehicles in the group, the longer it's going to take. No matter how you look at it, it doesn't matter. It's 4 vehicles are going to do something any road faster than 8 vehicles. That's just the way it's going to go. I think like the biggest thing is like Sean was saying, is like the mindset of you have to, if at least when you're in a group or even by yourself, I suppose, like you have to have in your head that, okay, I'm coming out here, I think it's going to take this long. It might not. And honestly, it probably won't actually take that long. It's probably going to take longer. And that's almost always going to be the case. It's like, well, this took longer than we had expected. And I'm not saying that you need to expect that it's going to take longer than what you want to and have that turn you off from wanting to go and do X trip. But it's just that you have to account for, this might take a little longer than we think it's going to. And I get that that's hard for some people. We've run into it in our group before, where some people are looking for a specific time or a specific amount of time that it's going to take. and I understand that. Like that's part of it. And it's like, I can't make any promises, and that's why I usually will say, okay, it's this amount of miles, because that is a hard number that you can set at. Okay, I know that this road from here to here, we're trying to get from X to B, and it is 123 miles. I can't, and once we get into the road, it's like, okay, well, if it's going to be like this, everyone can kind of do the math and be like, all right, cool. Like it's going to take us a couple hours because it's, just a gravel road. It's hard pack. It's not bad. Or if it's like the Alvord trip, we kind of have to reassess and be like, okay, well, we've been at it for an hour and we've gone 4 miles. It's going to take us longer than we thought, guys. and so it's,
well, and we did
math.
We did the cutoff time this year too, which was a nice addition, right? Like all right, this is sticky. We're running into trouble. Let's call it at 7:00, right? Like that way we just know, and it might be 6:50, it might be 7:45, but we're not going till 10. Like at that point, we know the cutoff is 7. We know we're running until we find somewhere that's big enough to fit us, and it works. And I think that's probably one of the biggest changes that was made over the last couple years, maybe, that really makes a difference. It's camping specific, I think, a thing that like just works for everybody. It's nice to have that communication, I think, more than anything.
Yeah, flexibility sounds key.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, appropriate expectations. I feel like I'm finally getting there.
It's hard. And the other thing that we run into, like I was getting at, is like we run into these like different levels of things too, right? And I assume that a lot of people that do this like we do it run into the same thing, where it's like Colin and I are talking about it, and then everybody else gets in the loop, and then everybody tells their significant other, and then as a family everybody tells their kids, and then the dog's coming along for the ride, and by the time you play that game of telephone 3 things down, all of a sudden everybody at the end doesn't quite understand exactly where we're going, and it's hard to manage that from especially Colin's perspective. I just kind of sit there and do what I don't know. I just sit there and deal with it. But like,
wait for direction.
Yeah, exactly. But Colin like really puts a lot of effort into it, and I think that sticks him in a spot sometimes that is kind of a spot of control that's really nice, and a lot of responsibility that's tricky to deal with sometimes. So
yeah, I will say one thing I notice. When there is an issue and everyone stops and then people start getting on the radios or hopping out of cars to see what's going on, I never see Jesse so excited to solve a problem.
Oh man, yeah.
Where I immediately go to like kind of this mode, and he like is like grinning and like flies out of the car, and he's like running up to see what's going on. So I feel like that helps. If everyone was just pissed off all the time, obviously like no one would do it.
Yeah.
Like it's like you said, it's the fun part. I'm like, you fucking love when we get stuck. You know, it's like
Absolutely.
like the best part. It's like resolving it and literally using math and science to figure out. He was explaining to me pulling a rope around a tree, like however many times lessens the weight by I can't tell you what it is now, but I found that very cool. And then you guys just like you're literally out there figuring it out.
Yeah, just got to figure it out.
Figure it out. I'll hone in here on the last couple questions on a nice note. Most memorable moments, whether it's really funny, heartwarming. I love seeing little kids like ride their bikes all around like they're just learning how. It's very cute. Emmy's first trips, a lot of those were with you guys. I had like a 1-year-old who's been in the desert. That was very cool. Or like terrifying moments, scary moments, things that stick out.
Yeah, there's lots of stuff like that. I mean, every one of us that has kids has had them out on the Alvord, and that's like it's a really cool like moment to see, like, and we've all had, like, they're all in such different age groups too, so it's like there's just been this cycle of like their experiences, and then as they get older, like the different experiences that they have on the Alvord. Like it's kind of since that's like our one mainstay trip, thanks to Sean, it gives us a baseline of everyone's like growth and experiences. So that's kind of a cool piece to all of it, is watching everybody like get better at it, and the kids like either enjoying it more or beginning to enjoy it less, and then they kind of like phase themselves out. but us adults will still go.
Tweens are over it.
Yes, exactly.
Absolutely.
But
I feel like a kid
around
when we're
long
out
enough
there.
to
It's
see
like
the
walking
kids
on the
get
moon.
phased out and then back in again. Like,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Aaron's kids.
Yep. Out and then back in. It's perfect.
But like standout moments.
There's a ton of stuff.
Yeah, that's.
I'm trying to remember.
Every trip has its own like vibe and feel, and like cool thing that happened or like shitty thing that happened. I mean, from everyone's perspective, it's totally different, because yes, we're doing this as a group, but everything is from your own perspective, and that's kind of part of it, because it's like you're on this adventure, but you're on this adventure with a group, but it's like everyone views it totally differently from your seat in the car or your spot around the fire. It's like, I mean, like we just talked about earlier, how you didn't see Frankie climb up into the tent, and for the podcast audience that the tens of you, Frankie is a mastiff. Like he's a giant dog, and it climbs up a ladder into a rooftop tent. It is the most amazing thing that we've seen on the Alvord, probably, and we've seen some wild things on the Alvord. So
He's also up on top of one of the tallest vehicles in the lineup as well, though. So it's not just like You know.
It's insane.
Oh.
It's pretty crazy.
I'm trying to think of all the coolest. We saw I remember seeing just a lone wild horse, like running what looked like in slow motion, like alongside us, out, kind of like in the distance, like I was watching a scene out of a movie.
Yeah, I mean that's another.
We
big
get the
part of
wild
it is,
horses
like,
quite a bit out there. Those are really cool.
Yeah, I mean, like think about all of the
Absolutely.
stuff that we see when we do it. Like, I mean, I've seen bobcats, like anything from bobcats to, you know, antelope to wild horses, burros, a badger once. Like, I mean, it's like that's kind of like part of it too, is like being out there and seeing everything else in its natural state. Like we're the outsiders viewing it as we come in. Like I don't know, it's kind of a cool experience to see the other things. We still haven't seen any fucking sheep though. We keep going into these places we're supposed to see rams and shit like that. We've never seen one.
Oh, bighorn? I'm sure they're there and we just don't see them. Like, I'm confident that's what's going on. Same with bears. We don't see a lot of bears. They're there. We just don't see them.
Don't say that. They're there, just no one can see them. That's
Yeah.
worse.
There's a lighthouse.
Did you miss anything?
Steve, memorable moment?
I think, like, the first time pulling out onto the Alvord, I think, was the coolest experience for me. And then lining up all the vehicles and just getting to pin it for several miles.
It's always fun.
Yeah, I think I was like shrieking the first time, like with laughter.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of ridiculous, and yeah, it feels like you're on almost like roller coaster feeling. Like, what are we doing? Is this
You're on
allowed?
the
I was
move.
kind of like, how fast are you going?
It's a weird experience.
It is.
Yeah, and it doesn't get old. Every time we get out there, we both say the same thing. We're like, this never gets old.
No.
It's so cool. I had no idea. Even like once we get out, like an hour out or so, I'm always like amazed that it's Oregon. I always think of Oregon as looking kind of a certain couple ways, and like the Black Rock trip, I was like, are we still in Oregon? This is like, I was surprised that that's what the terrain and everything can look like. It was cool how much it's just like not that far away.
Yeah.
I asked some of my coworkers if they had any questions that they wanted me to ask, and they kind of looked at my list and it's like mostly hit everything, and there was just one that one person had that everyone agreed upon to be the group question. And it was, why do you all have beards?
Oh my god. Probably because we're like coming up on middle-aged white guys at this point. Like, that's kind of the thing. Nobody wants to see this chin.
Yeah, do we all have really deep jaws? That's why. I got no chin, so I have to define it.
I think it was like a 24-year-old who asked that question, so I'll let him know.
You could tell him it's past his bedtime or something.
Yeah.
I hope he listens.
Yeah, you're gonna have to.
I don't know. I really don't know the answer to that question. Colin's had a beard as long as I've known him, I think. So I've gone in and out.
Yeah,
I think there might
I've
not be
been
anything
bearded
under
since
there at this
like
point. I don't-
19 or something
seen
like
it.
that. Like
I've seen
gone
it short.
like
You
really
did
short
cut
a
it
couple
short
times,
once.
but yeah.
Yeah. But yeah,
I mean,
I don't know.
Jesse shaves every once in a while, and
'Cause I can't
Tyson-
pull off a
well,
mustache?
Hey, Tyson can't grow. Tyson
Tyson.
can't grow a beard. So there you go. Tyson does not have a beard. He's in our group and does not have a beard.
Mustache.
He does
Just a
that. He has
mustache.
a pretty epic mustache.
And same with
right now,
Mike.
though. It kind of makes up for it.
Mike,
Oh, it's the best.
Mike can't grow a beard either.
Yeah.
No.
So
Wow.
yeah,
Very true.
not everyone has a beard. It's not everyone.
Wow. This was enlightening, you guys.
That's good.
Yeah. Did you miss anything? Did you get all your questions in?
Actually, I have one. I was thought about this earlier as like maybe like a good sign off is just like a really short bit of advice for someone who wants to get into it, hasn't done it. Something to remember, something to pack.
Just go.
Yeah,
just
I was going to say that. Tyson said it in the last podcast that I listened to, and he said seat time, which is like a funny, not funny. It's a race car thing, right? It's seat time. It's like practice, but it makes sense.
Time in the
It's
saddle.
yeah, it's time in the saddle. It's just do it. Like even if you're unprepared and close to home, it's awesome. Have fun. Do it. Don't forget toilet paper, I suppose. But other than that, just do it.
Just go. Yeah,
gas.
Or gas. That's an important bit.
That's a weird one that I never think about packing, but is
and it's one of those things. Well, and you don't even necessarily need that much gas. Just allot yourself. Okay, I'm gonna go X distance, so I know I've got in one tank. I can get out to where I want to go and come back on that one tank. You don't have to go far. Just go.
No.
And as you do it, you're gonna build confidence and figure out what you want in your setup, and then you go further and further and longer and longer time periods as you figure your own stuff out. It's all a learning experience, even for us after doing it for however many years we've been doing it. It's every time someone is
Always.
like going to learn something about either their vehicle, their gear, themselves, the person they're there with. I mean, it's always a new experience, like every time, even if it's into the same place. Like when we go to the Alvord every year, like it's something new every freaking time.
Definitely.
Don't commend people for what they have, but what they do, where they go.
Oh man, Steve's getting philosophical.
Yeah.
I'm into it.
Just because they've got $100,000 rig
that's
doesn't
the
mean they use
message.
it.
Yeah, we go more places than they do too. So it isn't about what you have. It's where you're willing to take it.
Yeah.
There we go.
Here's the title, guys.
There we go.
Just go, man.
Just go, man. Just go.